The wind coming off the tarmac at the Los Angeles Executive Jet Center was dry and warm, rustling tiny dust devils that danced along the sleek black tires of a parked BMW. The car rolled smoothly up to Hangar 14 just a few minutes past 8:30 a.m., perfectly on schedule. David Mercer stepped out with the kind of calm that comes from having nothing to prove and everything already in place. A navy suede jacket lay relaxed over a black tee, clean white sneakers on his feet, sunglasses tucked into his shirt collar. He didn't rush. He never did. There was power in taking your time, especially when the world kept trying to put you on someone else's clock. From the corner of the hangar, a young ramp agent gave him a quick nod before disappearing behind a fuel truck. Ahead of him, a silver Gulfstream G280 shimmered under the morning sun. The stairs were already lowered and the engines prepped. David walked toward it like he'd done countless times before because he had. L.A. to Kansas City for a logistics summit. He wasn't here to impress anyone. Just handle business and get back home. His mind was already elsewhere, reviewing quarterly projections, considering staffing models for the new Denver office. But just as he reached the first step of the jet, a voice called out behind him. "Excuse me, sir?" David turned, one brow raised, and saw a tall man in a crisp pilot's uniform striding toward him. Aviator sunglasses. Mid-50s. Sharp crease in his pants. He walked like someone used to being obeyed. "Can I help you?" David asked, his tone neutral. The man stopped a few feet away, already sizing him up. "This aircraft is scheduled for a private flight. I'm going to need to see identification and boarding confirmation. We can't allow unauthorized personnel near the plane." David blinked. For a second, he thought maybe it was a prank. But the pilot's expression didn't budge. No smile, no confusion, just blunt suspicion. "I own that plane," David said calmly. "I'm flying to Missouri this morning." The pilot narrowed his eyes, skeptical. "Right? And I'm the president." David gave a dry chuckle. Not mocking, just tired. "You can call dispatch. My name is on the manifest." The pilot crossed his arms, unimpressed. "You expect me to believe that? Look, I don't care who you say you are. You're not getting near this aircraft until someone clears it with me." He pulled a radio from his belt and turned slightly, speaking into it like he was reporting a break-in. David didn't move. His hands rested loosely at his sides. No raised voice, no dramatic gestures. He'd been in this kind of moment before too many times. But something about this one hit differently. This wasn't just ignorance. It was arrogance tightly wrapped in protocol. The pilot turned back. "Security will be here in 2 minutes. If you're the owner, I'm sure they'll clear it up." "You're going to feel real stupid in 2 minutes," David replied softly. The pilot grinned. "Not the good kind." "I doubt it." David stepped back, pulled out his phone, and dialed. It rang twice. "Yeah, it's me," he said. "Your Van Nuys pilot is blocking me from boarding. No, he doesn't have a clue who I am." "Yeah. I'll wait." Just as he hung up, a black SUV marked security rolled up behind him. 2 guards stepped out and headed straight toward the pilot. "This guy claims he owns the plane," the pilot said, gesturing toward David. "Refused to show ID. I didn't want to take any chances." One of the guards turned to David and did a double take. Recognition flickered across his face. "Mr. Mercer." David nodded. "That's right." The guard immediately turned back to the pilot. "Sir, you may want to get on the line with dispatch. Right now." The pilot's posture shifted slightly. Confusion creeping in. He looked at David again, as if trying to rework the math in his head and still not liking the sum. "Wait, you're who?" "David Mercer," he said plainly. The pilot gave a short, awkward laugh. "Right? And you're what? Some kind of investor?" There it was. The word wasn't neutral, it was a crutch. The only category the pilot could fit him into. Investor was the most acceptable version of what someone like David could be doing at the steps of a $21 million jet. "No," David said, locking eyes with him. "I own the company." The words dropped like iron. The pilot didn't flinch, but you could see it in his eyes. Something cracked. He turned to the guards, but they were already backing off, radioing someone higher up. "I'm not showing you ID," David added, "because I don't have to. The company isn't leased. The plane's not chartered. I own it." The pilot's jaw flexed. "I've been in aviation a long time," he muttered. I don't take chances when someone shows up unverified. You say you own the company, fine. But the way you rolled up, the way you're dressed. There it was again. Not loud, not explicit. But clear. Not rich enough. Not old enough. Not white enough. David watched him squirm, trying to pass personal bias off as procedure. You ever think, David asked, maybe you can't recognize power when it doesn't look like what you're used to? The pilot didn't answer. David's phone buzzed. He stepped a few feet away and answered it. Yeah, he said. He's still standing here. I'll wait. One of the guards cleared his throat and motioned to the pilot. Dispatch is asking to speak with you. Still holding onto his pride like a drowning man to driftwood, the pilot lifted his radio. This is Captain Nolan at Hangar 14. I've got a man here claiming to be the owner of Mercer Air. David Mercer says the aircraft is his. Silence. Then a response too low for the rest to hear, but loud enough for Nolan's face to drain of color. Yes, sir, he said quickly. He turned to David with a look that mixed dread and disbelief. There must have been a miscommunication. I didn't think I needed to notify anyone to board my own jet, David replied, voice still calm but firm. Nolan opened his mouth to speak again, but another voice crackled over his radio, this time loud enough for everyone to hear. Captain Nolan, you are relieved of duty immediately. Do not proceed with this flight. Nolan stood frozen. David turned to the guards. We good here? The nearest one nodded. All good, sir. As Nolan stepped back in stunned silence, a younger co-pilot had emerged halfway down the stairs. He gave David a respectful nod and stepped aside. Sorry about that, Mr. Mercer, he said quietly. You flying this today? David asked. If you want me to, sir. David studied him a moment, then nodded once and walked up the stairs. Inside, the cabin was everything it should be. Cream leather, polished walnut accents, and peace. No pretense, just purpose. David dropped his bag onto the seat closest to the front and sat down, rolling up his sleeves and unlocking his tablet. The door shut behind him with a clean, mechanical hiss. He didn't think about Nolan anymore, not directly. Anyway, what stayed in his mind was why he'd bought the company to begin with. It hadn't started with this moment. It started 2 months earlier on another private flight, one where David was a paying client. The pilot on that flight hadn't said much. No smile. No courtesy. A subtle tone that screamed, you don't belong here. David didn't complain. But when he got home, he poured a drink, sat with it, and called his lawyer. Mel, he said. Find out who owns the charter company. Quietly. I want it. 6 weeks later, he had controlling interest through a holding firm. He restructured leadership, elevated new voices, and never once showed his face at the HQ. He didn't need them to know who he was. He just needed them to know someone was watching. As the jet taxied, his thoughts drifted back to that Thursday in Phoenix. How quiet moves could shift entire mountains. David wasn't new money. He wasn't loud. He didn't showboat. He just made sure that when someone like him showed up, they wouldn't be mistaken again. By the time the jet touched down in Kansas City, the story had already gone viral. A fuel tech on the tarmac had filmed the whole thing from behind a truck. The clip was short, 48 seconds of David being calmly dismissed, the pilot barking protocol, and a single line from David that hit like thunder. You ever think maybe you can't recognize power when it doesn't look like what you're used to? That was all it took. The internet exploded. Some praised him. Others debated tone, race, procedure. Comment sections filled with arguments and applause. David ignored it all. He didn't need the noise. But in his inbox, the messages came pouring in. One from a young baggage handler in Minneapolis. I saw myself in you, Mr. Mercer. Thank you for standing there. Another from a woman who ran a small air service in Arizona. Your story forced my team to rethink a lot of things. We needed that. There were dozens more. No hashtags. No performances. Just real people who knew exactly what it felt like to be doubted in rooms they'd earned the right to enter. That's what stuck with him. Not the clip. Not the headlines. The truth it revealed. That sometimes the sharpest power is the kind that moves in silence. And if people try to measure your worth by how you look, let them. While they're still trying to size you up, you're already owning the building. And then some.